Look at implementing many-to-many in different ways, right? So first we'll look at implementing it using just a mapping table, right? So in this case, we might have a student and a section. Here we're using the graphics of using an association class where you have an enrollment that is capturing presumably not only the fact that a particular student is enrolled in a section and a section might have many students, but perhaps it's capturing other things, right? Maybe the grade they got, the review, and whatnot. Yes? But let's look at first the mapping implementation, which is slightly simpler. So in a mapping implementation, you would implement the sections and the students just the same way, using entities, IDs, generated values, right? So that doesn't change. What changes here is that now they're both going to look at each other as having many-to-manys on both sides, right? Just like having a student looking from the students to the sections, you have one student has many sections, right? From the section looking at the student, you have one section having many students, right? So basically the way you would cover this is that you just have many-to-many on both sides, right? So on both sides you have kind of like a collection, right? A student is going to keep track of a list of sections, and from the section is going to have a list of students from the other side. Make sense? So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take the section. It's going to have a list of students that have all the students that are enrolled in that section. And on the student side, we're going to have the same thing. You're going to have a list of sections, right? It's looking from the students to the sections, right? In both cases, we are going to use the at many-to-many mapping, right? We're going to say there's a many-to-many relationship between this section and the enrolled students. And if you look at it from the student's point of view, it is also a many-to-many. See that? Okay. Once you've done that, you need to say, well, how do you want me to keep track of these relationships? I need to create a table that maps these two. I need to create that extra table. Are you going to create it yourself, right? And then implement it yourself, or do you want me to manage it? Right? Do you want me to create that table for you? Right. So here we're going to use this simple mapping implementation. So the way we implement it is going to say we're going to use an at join table. We're going to say, create a mapping table, the table that's going to have those two foreign keys. Call it whatever you want to call it. Here, enrollment, and then you tell me what do you want to call those foreign keys, right? What do you want to call those foreign keys, and what are they referencing to each one of the primary keys? So in this case, we're going to say that there are going to be two join columns, right? One of the join columns is going to be called the student ID, so it's going to point to the student, right? To the field ID, and the inverse relationship, right, is that it's going to point to the section ID. Right? So you have the two foreign keys. So here's where you declare the two foreign keys: section ID and student ID. Okay. Once you've done that, the JPA will create for you the table, student, section, and also the enrollment table for you, right? You're not going to notice typically when we create a new table, usually we have a class for that table, right? Just like we're creating a student class, and we create a student table. We create a section class, it creates a section table. Here we're creating an enrollment table without actually having a class enrollment. Make sense? Right? Now, if we instead want to use an association where we have additional fields, then we would have to create our own class enrollment, right? But over here, we're only doing a mapping table. We're going to have just the foreign keys. We're not going to have the additional fields. Make sense? If it's just that, we don't have to create an additional class to do the implementation, right? All right, so let's play around with this. So in our models, right? Yes. Here, section right here. This is how it knows what to map to, the inverse relationship. Also on the section, in the section also knows who's mapping to it. Enrollment sections. right? It says that the students are referring to me through these enrollment sections, right? That's where the connection, right, goes back to the section. Okay. All right, so let's play around with that. Let's implement here a couple models. Well, let's implement the student. So this will be a student, and let's keep it simple. So here we'll have a private integer ID, and here we have a private string, the name of the student. Okay, and then we'll have the setters and getters for this. So we'll generate the setters and getters. Okay. Now on the other side, we're going to create a section. So let's create a section for this. So Java class, this will be a section. And on the section, we're going to have something very similar. We're going to have a private integer, and this will be the ID, and this will be private the title of the section, right? The name of the section. So title. Okay. In addition to this, right, they should know about each other. Right? Each one would have an array pointing to each other. Right? So in here, we're going to have the student is going to keep track of the sections that I am enrolled in. Right? So these are the sections. Right? And whereas in the section, I'm going to keep track of the list of students that are enrolled in this section. Right, so they're pointing to each other, right? Private. Okay, let's make sure we have the setters and getters for all these folks. Setters and getters. There, and let's make sure that we do the same thing for the section. We have the code generate setters and getters. There we go. All right, so as far as Java is concerned, I'm done. Right? If this is only going to be in memory, and I'm just going to, these are transient objects that are being instantiated and thrown away and reinstantiated later and whatnot, I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. But because we are going to be stored in a relational database, I have to go a little further. Right? I have to annotate and tell JPA, how do you want me to implement this in the relational database? Right? So to do that, right, we need to annotate a couple of things here. We're going to say that this is an entity. Right? That maybe I'm going to override the name of the table. I'm going to call it sections because I know you're going to use this singular noun. I'm going to annotate this as a primary key, and I'm going to ask you to handle the auto increment for me. I don't want to deal with that. Right? Same thing for on the student side. Right, I'm going to annotate this as the primary key, and I'm going to annotate this using a table. I'm going to call it the students table. Students. Okay, all right. All right. So that's as far as we know, right, for just creating the table. Right. Now we have to take a look at how are we going to implement this relationship. Right? Again, there's two ways of implementing it. One is with a simple join table. Right, that's going to do mapping, students to sections, sections to students, just with foreign keys. That's the simplest implementation. Or, as we'll see a little later, right, you could have a whole class that is not only going to have the foreign keys, but it's also going to have a whole bunch of other things in there, right? And the year that you graduated and whatnot. Okay, so let's implement this. So on the student side, so on both sides, we're going to use the @many to many. Right, so on both sides, we're going to do that, many to many, okay, as opposed to one to many, right, many to many. Now, on one of the sides, either on the student or the section, it's up to you, right? It depends. What do you think is going to be the most common use case, right? Is it more common for somebody to look at a section and I want to see what students are in that section, or is it more common that a student wants to see the sections that they are enrolled in? Probably the later, right? Probably the student is the one who, there's many more students than there are registrars, right? Or folks in the registrar's office, right? From the registrar's office, I want to see all my sections and I want to see all the students that enroll in that section. Yes, but it's a less common use case than thousands of students wanted to see all the sections that they enrolled in, right? So in that case, I'm going to go on the other side of the students and declare the enrollment, the join table on the student side, on the side that I think is going to be the more common one, where I'm going to be manipulating it, right? Regardless of this, I'm always going to be able to query it either way. I'll give you a section, I can see the students in there, or I can give you a student, I can see the sections that are in that student. Either way, I should be able to query it either way. Okay. So from the student side, we're going to declare a join table, right? Whereas on the other side, I'm going to declare that I'm being mapped by the field on the other side as the sections. So there's a field on the other side that is referring to me. I need to tell it who's referring to me. All right, so in the student side, notice that we have indeed a sections field. See that? It needs to know that. Right? Again, this is a mirror image. We could have gone the other way around. Right? We could have declared instead the join table. We would have declared it here. Sorry, declared it here, and then we would have had to declare the mapped by here. Yes? Either one works. Right? Again, because it's bidirectional. You should be able to navigate from both sides. Right, so I'm going to go with having the join table again in the student side. All right, so here we have the join table. Let's declare it. Yes. I'm sorry. Say again. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yep, exactly. Right, so it wants to find out what foreign keys I'm using declared in this field. Yep. It won't find it. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. So let's see. So we have the join table. We can call it what we want to call it. So this will be called name. You can see what are the various fields that are available here. So we have name, inverse join columns, catalog, blah blah blah, indexes. You can also create create indices and whatnot, right? So let's do name. So name, we'll call it enrollments. Okay. Next thing we're going to configure is the join columns. So the join columns is going to be the join column. So at join column, and we're going to call it. So we have to declare. We're declaring this over here, right? This new table, and that table is going to have two foreign keys, one pointing to the student and one pointing to the section, right? So here's one of the columns, and this join column is referring to me, where I'm being declared in the student, right? So it is the student ID. So this is the name is going to be student ID, okay, and it's going to be referring to reference column name. I'm referring to the ID in the student in the student table. And then, because I am in the student side, I now have to declare the column that references the other side of my relationship, which is the section. It's the inverse relationship, right? So for that, we're going to have the inverse join column, and same thing. We're going to declare a join column. So this is join column. Right? It's going to have the name is going to be for the section ID, right? And it's going to be referencing the column name. Reference column name is also ID, right? Both fields, primary keys, are called ID. Okay. So this is just declaring the two foreign keys. One for the one I live in right now in the student. That's where I'm being declared. Notice that if I declare this in the section, this would be reversed. Right? If I declare this on the section side, my join column would be section ID, referencing ID, and the inverse column would be student ID. and then the reference column is ID. Yes? Right, so depending on where you declare this, either on the one side or the other side, these would be reversed. Okay. What else? Let's see. I think that's it. All right, I think that's it. We have the students. We have the section. Let's restart the server. Let's see if this blows up. Actually, we should check out the database and see what we have before we. All right, so notice that, yeah, enrollments, believe me, it was not there. Enrollments wasn't there. And we have students and we have sections, right? Both with ID fields and the ID fields there. And enrollments, notice that it has the columns student ID and section ID as declared in my join table. Okay. All right, excellent. So that concludes, the configuration side, right, of being able to create the schema, right, from Java. Notice that we didn't have to create this at all from the console of the SQL server, but it was all generated for us by JPA. All right, so now let's see how we interact with this.